You're listening to Blockchain 2025. The future is right now. Every week, we explore implications of the technology underpinning cryptocurrencies. Blockchain.
Each episode is a standalone examination of one industry broken into 3 segments: a basic overview, blockchain's disruptive impact, and relevant crypto projects.
Blockchain 2025 is part of the Bitcoin.com podcast network. Learn about Bitcoin, create a wallet, and buy your first Satoshis all at Bitcoin.com.
Listeners, what's up? This is your co-host, Matt Aaron.
And this is Blake Moore.
Blake, I am in warm weather again down here in Mexico. I think we've kind of reversed roles. You're in a pretty chilly land right now.
Right. So, yeah, I'm coming to you from London. It's definitely very cold outside. Not as cold as Berlin, where I was a couple of weeks ago, but definitely, not t-shirt weather here.
That's right. In Berlin, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, co-working on the blockchain, I highly recommend it. And Blake, at the end of the episode, goes to a co-working space where for less than €1 in one of the nicest office buildings in Berlin, he was able to work for the day. I think that was really, really awesome. And today's episode, Blake, listen, there's no secret. Anyone listening here, it's December 4th, today's recording date. We're in the bear market. And the whole idea, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. Again, crypto is not just about the price, but there's no doubt that it affects the mood and environment and community of cryptocurrencies.
That's correct, Matt. That's correct. I think it's a funny predicament we find ourselves in as people involved in this space, because on one hand, you kind of want to just focus on building stuff and getting to work and getting busy. But on the other hand, the price is a big part of it. So it's kind of an interesting dance we have with the price and cryptocurrency.
That's right. At the end of the day, we need people to use cryptocurrency as a currency. And that means the general public, the 99% of people that don't know a lot about cryptocurrencies. So it plays a factor. It does. If you zoom out, Bitcoin has had these drops before. And if you believe in cryptocurrencies, this is just kind of par for the course.
Exactly. There's actually an infographic floating around on Twitter that shows kind of how far it's dropped in the past. And you're usually talking 80 to 90% drops. So, this is nothing out of the ordinary. This has definitely happened before.
Yeah. We're such emotional creatures. And just being told that, having all the evidence in front of us, but like our emotions still take over, and you see that 90% drop in your portfolio, and you're like, God damn, it really came down.
Right. It's a tricky one, especially, we all work hard for our money, and then, it's when you're putting it into something, it's sometimes easier to say, oh, well, just, buy when others are fearful. It's easy to say that. Sometimes a little more trickier in action.
Right. And you and I have discussed about pulling the trigger on some opportunities because of that. Now is the time to make some moves when, the Warren Buffett, be greedy when others are fearful. And there's a lot of fear floating around. And so we're trying to find that next thing. It will take a little bit more digging in the bear market. And Erik Voorhees, who's been on Humans of Bitcoin and one of the most influential people, important people in the cryptocurrency space, had a tweet. This was in August, a couple months ago. Okay, here's the tweet. Quote, calling this one now, ... The crypto craze of 2019 will be game assets and collectibles. Check this out. And he linked to MLB Crypto Baseball, which is kind of like a merging of fantasy baseball with rare crypto assets. And we'll define that in a bit. But Cryptocollectibles as the craze of 2019.
It's an interesting one. I think he has a point. Is when you look at something like this, where it's like kind of officially licensed, I think, right? MLB, crypto baseball. There's definitely opportunity there that businesses are looking at and seeing that, there's some money to be made and kind of some traction to be got as well.
That's right. So we'd like you to come away from this episode with an idea of what crypto collectibles are and the potential opportunity they have for the future. Because we can say this about just around any episode, we are in the early stages of crypto collectibles. So without further ado, Blake, explain to my grandma, what is a crypto collectible?
Well, so I guess one way to think about crypto collectibles is they are, unique, often limited in quantity assets on the blockchain. So think of it like an image or a file and you own that image or file because you have access to it. I guess that's the simplest way I can think of describing them. What about you, Mike? Have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that think of stamp collecting or coin collections or collecting baseball cards. And sometimes they have rare cards and rare, error cards. Like it could be a Ken Griffey Jr. baseball card where his name's spelled wrong, and that makes it have scarcity. These are scarce assets. Digitally verifiable, meaning that you know how many of each crypto collectible. With ERC 721, which is crypto collectible on Ethereum, and Cryptokitties, every crypto collectible is unique. And this is kind of like antiques for the 21st century in trading cards, but 21st century, instead of holding them physically, you'll hold them digitally on a blockchain.
That's a great way of describing it. I hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah, definitely. It's antiques for the 21st century. Wow, I really like that.
Yeah, and let's continue with that. So, always we want to talk a little bit about the history. So let's just go back to the history of collectibles, and bear with us, listeners. This will have relevancy towards the end here, but we humans have been collecting things since the beginning of time. I mentioned stamp collections, I mentioned coins, but the list goes on and on.
Right. I'm sure back in the day, people even had rock collections, We've been collecting everything.
And they still have rock collections.
Yeah.
They have geode collections, and people collect rocks, and look at jewelry, like a lot of very precious gemstones.
Very true.
And again, it goes to scarcity, what makes them precious. Like a really valuable emerald or diamond is because there's a fixed supply of these things.
Right, exactly. And, you just have to think that's the way it's as if the old qualities of what a collectible was have just been digitized. And it's really, it's pretty interesting how it's been done with ERC 721 tokens. That's what they are, right? But it's very interesting how that's coming into existence on the blockchain.
That's right. And another thought here with collectibles is a lot of people say, if you look at gold, gold as money, it started out as a collectible. Mm-hmm. And even Bitcoin was a collectible at very first. That's the first stage of becoming money because, they were just coding and they could kind of make a transaction, but there wasn't even a price for it. So Bitcoin was more this kind of cool collector's item. And, sneakers are collected, Air Force Ones, anything you can think of, rare t-shirts, bottle caps, beer labels. But Bitcoin is different because they moved from a collectible to a store of value phase. And a lot of these collectibles will have store of value that we talked about today. I think fine art, but to move from, so we talked about it as a collector's item, right? So you have step 1, collector's item, step 2, store of value, and then step 3, medium of exchange. Fine art is a store of value, but it's not a medium of exchange. I'm not going to give you a painting for breakfast, for you to cook me breakfast, right? And so these crypto collectibles will probably stay in those first 2 stages of money, the store of value and the collectible stages.
How do you prefer your crypto news? If it's through your headphones, then you'll love this podcast. This Week in Bitcoin is an easy-to-digest news summary published every Friday with a length of 15 minutes or less. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Bitcoin.com podcast network.
And a big piece of news in the crypto space last year was the rise of Cryptokitties. Those fluffy things on the blockchain. They got a lot of press and they caused a lot of stir in the community and just in the world. It wasn't just in the crypto world, but kind of felt across all of tech. What was your take on that, Matt, with the rise of that? I guess it'd be good to give the viewers a little bit more context around that too.
Sure. So what happened with Cryptokitties? What are Cryptokitties? They're just digital cats. Each one is unique and you can collect them and you can breed them. Meaning if you have 2 Cryptokitties, you can breed them and create an additional Cryptokitty. And the biggest news narrative was, wow, Cryptokitties are hogging the Ethereum blockchain. And it was true. The Ethereum blockchain, the processing power of the Ethereum blockchain, the network was bogged down by people buying and selling and trading Cryptokitties. So there were a couple reactions there. One being, wow, Ethereum really needs to scale if this is going to be a serious project. And 2, why are people spending money on these digital cats?
I had exactly that same process. So my first thinking at the time, because I was actually making a few Ethereum transactions when this happened, and literally it ended up costing me so much to actually get the transactions through in a reasonable amount of time that you started to take note of this. And I was exactly like that. The first phase was, okay, this is really annoying. Ethereum needs to get better. But then, yeah, you start to kind of take note, and it's like, why are people buying all these Cryptokitties? What is this? And it blew up, right? It went insane.
That's right. I dismissed it as well. But just like people dismissed Bitcoin in 2011, this is another example of something that Erik Voorhees is saying he's calling is going to be the craze of 2019. And I encourage you to have an open mind about it and about their value. So I want to compare some things of the past, and that will help us understand the future. Do you remember Beanie Babies, Blake?
I do remember them.
And they were a craze for a year or two. Tickle Me Elmo doll, where they got very popular as gifts for kids. And then there was buying and selling. And then you had a Tickle Me Elmo doll going for $1,000 and more. But they kind of came and went, right? They don't last a day. And I'd say most crypto collectibles games are going to follow that trajectory, right? They get hot and then they fade away, and those crypto collectibles that you own, you won't be able to sell them for much. But another game called Magic the Gathering is still around today. And so the question is, what gives a crypto collectible value? Well, people play Magic the Gathering, and there's Magic the Gathering tournaments all over the world, 20, 25 years later. And so I'd say the first thing that can help give it value is if there is a use for it. Fine art, obviously the appreciation of artwork. You can display it in your house. You can have art shows. So there's value there. Gold, you can make jewelry, although that value may be lower than the spot price on the market. But some of these crypto assets are going to be at a lower chance of surviving if there's not a community around the collectible.
I agree. And I think that's a really great way to kind of review if a crypto collectible, in your opinion, is going to be a success. So you just got to think, okay, is this actually a gimmick? And are they just kind of pulling me in because it's funny, or it's kind of like a unique proposition? Or is there actually scope that, like you said, Matt, there's going to be a community built around this collectible? And I think that's the key thing across all the cryptocurrencies. But it's interesting when you pull that into crypto collectibles is, they need a community interested enough to be building on it and using it, and keeping the value there and making it something that's tradable.
That's right. And so Pokemon came back really big, their community with their game, right? They have a game around it. And some of these crypto collectibles understand that there are characters used in games. It's like Gods Unchained. So if you have a sixth sense for evaluating a community and its health and its strength, and maybe looking at the forums and so forth, and if you think it's picking up, I think there will be many millionaires that trade crypto collectibles on the blockchain. There will also be many people that lose a lot of money because there's something hot on YouTube and it was all over TV, and they went and bought it they bought at the peak, and then the game fades away in importance.
I totally agree. And I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned from crypto collectibles and cryptocurrencies in general, but that is definitely very high up there. You got to make sure that there's some longevity in what you're buying. Definitely important. One example that I saw actually recently that is an interesting one is this cryptocurrency. It's like a virtual reality platform called Decentraland. Have you heard of that, Matt?
I have.
Yeah, it's cool, right? It's an interesting concept, like a game that's Ethereum powered. I think that's definitely an interesting one. So for you guys at home, basically Decentraland, it's a virtual world where you purchase plots of land. You can build on it, monetize them. There aren't really any limits. So they're still kind of scoping out what you're going to be able to do. It's kind of an ever-evolving thing. But what's interesting is that the actual land tokens themselves that you buy, they're an ERC 721 token, so they're a crypto collectible. But that's just like we were talking about Magic the Gathering. This is another, crypto collectible that has a real use and is involved in a game structure. So that, for example, that's something that you're thinking, okay, that might have some value. But it's an interesting angle thinking, okay, do these things have longevity? And if they do, it definitely should kind of spark your interest a little.
That's right. And to give you some numbers here, in crypto countries, Japan, at the time it was sold, 709 Ethereum, that was worth $271,500. So serious money was floating around in this collectibles world. And gaming tokens have existed. Second Life, having their token, that was kind of the first exposure for a lot of people getting into crypto. Like, oh yeah, I've seen this work in video games. So these collectible assets, and we said the ERC 721 and non-fungible, all that means, ERC 721 is just the code for a non-fungible asset, and a non-fungible asset is something that's unique, where, one Ether, one Bitcoin is exactly the same as one other Bitcoin. But, this kitty with longer hair, et cetera, can be uniquely identified as an asset to the green small kitty with a mohawk.
Right. I think one interesting way of kind of phrasing it as well is you think about what is the opposite? What's fungible? So I guess something that a way that I was always taught to demonstrate what something is when it's got fungibility is think of like, grains or rice or a $1 banknote. So if you lend that dollar to someone else, it wouldn't matter if they didn't return the exact same one. But with a crypto kitty or a crypto collectible, something that's non-fungible, if they give you back a different one, you're going to be like, hey, wait a second, like that's not the one I gave you. So it has that uniqueness, like you said. You need to have the same hair on your crypto collectible, basically.
That's right. And remember, with blockchains, all of these smart contract crypto collectible platforms, CryptoKitties, crypto countries, crypto celebrities, you can see the history, meaning how much it was initially purchased for. And that's a unique thing as well, Blake, because some of these crypto collectibles, if you launch a crypto collectibles game, you can make a lot of money because many of them use an auction process. So they'll auction off new players or new cards or new kitties. So the creators of that will make money on the initial auction. But you can see the history saying, oh, this was initially created for an auction for 5 Ethereum, then went up to 100, and now it's at 6. So that helps in understanding the market value of the asset. And that's where the blockchain lends a lot of credibility. It also adds a lot of credibility that you're not buying a fake token, like a fake baseball card or a fake painting. That's not going to happen with a blockchain-based crypto collectible, assuming you do your homework.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I think, you remove any risk of fraud. Like, everyone talks about, the original kind of rhetoric was blockchains are, for drug dealers and people that are doing things that are highly illegal by whatever a government tells you is illegal. But essentially, it's kind of the polar opposite. You are fully tracked. And if you know how to look for it, you can find out anything that's kind of logged on the blockchain.
That's right. And so we've talked about crypto collectibles, the craze potentially for 2019. We've taken a look at collectibles in general, what makes them have value, the community, and that craze, just getting that craze in a sustained community, and how you can make or lose money trading or potentially launching a game. But one thing that a lot of people aren't aware of, they think, oh, it's on Ethereum, it's safe as long as Ethereum's safe, which is its own other topic. But it's not just the Ethereum blockchain. There'll be crypto assets built on other blockchains, like Bitcoin Cash soon has some of these coming out with the Badger tokens. But just because that blockchain is safe doesn't mean the crypto collectible itself is safe, because these smart contracts, the people that create these tokens, if there's a problem in those contracts, they can be invalidated. So that is another risk when you invest in these crypto collectibles, understanding if the crypto collectibles game itself uses proper smart contracts.
I think when you hear the word collectibles, it's easy just to think, oh, cool, like that sounds like something that, you can just pick up, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of tech behind it. But ultimately, yeah, these are technical products. It's a ERC 721 token, you have to make sure that they should be right now, or on another coin for that matter. Like you said, with Bitcoin Cash coming up with support for ERC 721 tokens. Yeah, it's definitely something to consider. I think, you have to do your due diligence even with collectibles, just as you would with any cryptocurrency. Anything you're looking to buy or look at, definitely make sure you really look at it and make sure that it looks legit.
Yeah, as always, proceed with caution. And again, on the smart contracts, just an example, if you invest in a crypto kitty or a crypto celebrity or a certain character that's unique to yours in a game or land, like in crypto countries, if you spend $100,000 on Japan or $700,000 in Japan, and then it's duplicated because there's a problem in the smart contract, well, that's going to zero. So be very careful, but also be optimistic. If you want to see the marketplace, the best marketplace I've seen is OpenSea, OpenCSEA.io. That's a great place to just look and start learning about this. But I'm going to name this episode Crypto Collectibles 101, because if Voorhees is right, and I think he's onto something,
yeah,
this will be a lot bigger 6 months from now. We can go deeper into some of the top crypto collectibles projects.
I agree. It's definitely time to get up to speed. And yeah, whatever's coming up in 2019, make sure you're prepared.
That's right. Well, hey, as always, thanks so much for listening. And I hope you're getting a lot out of this show and thinking about the opportunities that are around right now. This is not the time to quit, but to learn, to develop, to build. And crypto collectibles may be an interesting project for you.
Totally agree, Matt. Totally agree. Time to learn and prepare for the coming months, years, and let's do this, guys.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening to the Bitcoin.com podcast network. To learn more about our shows, visit Bitcoin.com/podcast. Bitcoin.com podcast network.